Broadcasts of the City of Neenah Common Council meetings are produced by University Studios of the University of Wisconsin-Fox Valley. Neenah residents can get information about City Council meetings, City Committee meetings, meeting agendas, and other documents via the City website, www.neenahgov.org. Neenah residents can express their opinions about city issues or about these broadcasts by contacting the mayor's office, contacting their city alderman, or by completing the electronic feedback form on the city website, www.neenahgov.org. All public portions of the meetings are recorded in entirety and are not edited for playback.
I'd like to call to order the Common Council meeting of Wednesday, August 15, 2018. First item of business will be the roll call. Members, please sign in on the roll call machine and answer the clerk when your name is called.
Alderman Boyette. Here. Bates.
Here.
Hillstrom.
Here.
Lendrum.
Here.
Erickson.
Here.
Lang.
Here.
Steele.
Here.
Coons.
Here.
Stevenson.
Here.
The pledge tonight will be led by Alderman Coons.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
All right. Welcome. Beautiful night out there. Great concert going on over at Shattuck Park. First item of business then will be second item. There are no mayor's appointments. Item number 3 on the agenda is approval of the council proceedings of June 27, 2018 special session and August 1st, 2018 regular session. Is there a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
There's a motion by Alderman Bates, seconded by Alderman Lendrum. Is there any discussion? Corrections, additions? All in favor will vote aye. All opposed will vote no using the roll call machine. That motion passes 9-0. There are no public hearings. No plan commission. Item number 6 is a public forum. The public forum is an opportunity for any citizen to come before the council and discuss with the council any item that they wish. All we ask is that you give your address, your name, your address, just strictly for the record, and we ask that you try to limit your comments to 5 minutes or less. Is there anyone here who would like to speak to the council during the public forum section? Anyone? Okay, seeing no one, I will close the public forum then. Item number 7, consideration, I assume. There is no consent agenda tonight. Item number 9 is the reports of the standing committees. Item number 8 is the Public Services and Safety Committee meeting of August 15, 2018. That would be Chairperson Bates.
Thank you, Mayor. From the meeting of tonight at 6:30, August 15th, Special Public Services and Safety Committee meeting. Consideration, the committee recommended approval of the We Energies easement request for work order 412-5998, which is the Western Avenue and Lake Street, and I would so move.
Oh. Too fast.
There's a motion by Alderman Bates, seconded by Alderman Lendrum. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor, vote aye. All opposed, vote no on the roll call machine. That motion passes 9-0.
The committee recommends approval of the We Energies easement request for work order 4126018, Main Street Lift Station, and I would so move.
Second.
Alderman Bates moves, second by Alderman Lendrum. Any discussion, questions on this item? Alderman Coons?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just looking for a clarification on what we're doing here, what we're giving up, and I'm not saying I have any really issues, and I'm sorry I missed the 6:30 meeting, but trying to capture if there's anything that we're giving away or relenting that I'm unaware of.
Alderman Bates or Director?
Yeah, I
Kaiser?
would say the issue really revolves around ownership of a transformer at that lift station that's needed to regulate power into the station. The city currently owns a transformer, a very old unit. We have worked with We Energies to arrange for them to install a transformer and serve that transformer in the future. So in the staff's opinion, it gives us a more viable long-term source of power into that station, with We Energies owning a piece of equipment that we really don't have experience or expertise with.
And just in addition to that, by not us owning the transformer puts us in a different rate class, in which case every year we'll be paying another $2,500. But considering that they're replacing the transformer to start with, it's looking like a very fair deal to us.
If I could just follow up, and again, I'm just trying to understand. But if they have power down everywhere and their attention is elsewhere, at the same time, we have water, and filling in, and we need to do something. Can we do something, or is it totally off limits and they have to do it? Or
The transformer is there. If there is a power outage at the lift station, we have a generator on site that we can use to operate the lift station. So if the transformer were to go down, that generator would kick in, and then we would mobilize a backup generator just in case our main generator had to go down.
so you see no limitations in this?
No.
Okay,
No, I
thank
don't.
you.
And one last thing is, we do not own the transformers at the other lift stations either.
Thank you. All in favor of the recommendation regarding this easement will vote aye. All opposed will vote no using the roll call machine, please. That motion passes 9-0.
The committee recommends approval of beverage operator license applications for Jaden M. Cook, Katrina K. Cato Burnt, Brooke M. Letson, Nicholas J. Richard, and Jonathan J. Tepanier, and I would so move.
Alderman
Second.
Bates moves, seconded by Alderman Lundrum, that the list of beverage operator license applications be approved. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor vote aye, all opposed vote no using the roll call machine. That motion passes 9-0.
Committee recommends approval of the temporary Class B picnic beer license application for St. Gabriel Church, 900 Geiger Street, for their parish picnic to be held on August 19th, 2018, and I would so move.
Second.
It's moved by Alderman Bates, seconded by Alderman Hillstrom to recommend the approval of the temporary Class B picnic license application. Any questions, discussion? All in favor, vote aye. All opposed, vote no on the roll call machine, please. That motion passes 9-0.
And our August 7th meeting was canceled, so that concludes my report.
Thank you, Chairperson Bates. Item number C is the Finance and Personnel Committee meeting of August 6th. Chairperson Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor. We're reporting out from the regular Finance and Personnel Committee meeting of August 6, 2018. Item number 1, the committee recommends council deny the amended development agreement for lots 64, 65, 66, and 70 of the Liberty Heights subdivision. And this is to be acted on following a report by the Board of Public Works.
Okay, thank you for your report. Item number 10, Special Committees, regular Plan Commission meeting. There was no report. Item number B is the Board of Public Works meeting of August 7th. Vice Chairperson Hillstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. The minutes can be found on the city website. There are three informational items this evening. A is the board-approved pay estimate number 5, contract 1-18, miscellaneous sewer and water main construction and street construction on Andrew Avenue, Richard Avenue, Tiger Street, and Whiting Court to Dave Tenner Corporation of Green Bay for $104,711.13. Item B is the board-approved pay estimate number 2, contract 2-18, sewer and water main construction and street construction on Cecil Street and Adams Street to David Tenner Corporation of Green Bay for $321,446.75. Item C, board-approved pay estimate number 1, contract 4-18, epoxy pavement marking guidelines, pavement marking LLC for $61,920.57. There are 2 council action items this evening. The board recommends council approve the final payment for contract PR 17-01, Loop the Lake, Neenah Bridge Project to Pfeiffer Brothers Construction, Neenah, in the amount of $43,325.75, with $5,000 held in retainage pending completion of punch list items, and I would so move.
Alderman Hillstrom moves to approve the final payment for the contract PR 17-01, the Loop the Lake Neenah Bridge Project, in the amount of $43,325.75, with $5,000 held for retainage. Is there a second? Alderman Kuhn seconds it. Discussion on this item. Alderman Bates.
Thank you, Mayor. I was going to ask Director Easker how we stand with what funds came from the different sources.
I apologize. I did not bring that information. Maybe Director Kading has it.
Director Kading, come on up and give us a little accounting.
Do I get the CPA behind
Yes,
me?
thank you.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. To date, we are at $429,773 of the fundraising dollars that have been paid towards the project to the city of Neenah. We received the original grant amount of approximately $400,000. Once all of this is completed, then we'll round out the entire grant amount to the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, and the city is up to date in their payments of their $320,000. I think $325,000. Correct. 25. We don't anticipate using all of that, but the final numbers aren't in yet.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Just so folks know, if you haven't had a chance, the arborvitae's tree line along the north end of the landing zone, landing area, those are in, and they look very nice. So, and the neighbor I have spoken to, and they're pleased with them at this point. Alderman Boyette.
Thank you. I just have excuse me, I have a question regarding the punch list. Is there any way we can get a copy of that? See how many items are on there or what the items are?
Well, do we have a punch list yet, or has that walkthrough been done? Oh, so you do have a punch list. Okay.
Because this says here, pending completion of punch list items. I was just wondering if we had a copy of that list.
All right. You'll supply that tomorrow?
I can just make a quick comment.
Pardon? Sure.
The original punch list item checklist was completed on July 2nd. Last week, Friday, we had another walkthrough. We're down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 items that are open. So out of this list here, we're down to just a few remaining items to be completed. So, but certainly tomorrow morning we'll make that available.
You're able to get the council the original checklist and tell them which ones have been taken care of?
Yep, the ones that are not indicated as of August 10th, those are the ones that are still open.
Okay.
Thank you.
Alderman Bates?
Thank you. Could you give us an idea? I think at the meeting you said most of them were just superficial type things. If there's just 7 of them, just give us a rundown.
There's a small utility box that's had some not erosion, but sinking of soil around it that needs to be filled. Railing tensions on all the cabling need to be adjusted. That's what happens over time as you stretch. There's a donor plaque that needs to be, the mounting bracket system behind it needs to be adjusted to match the other ones. North side lane, and the concrete slab on the north side, there's a crack. We're just asking them to put some epoxy seal in that. Touch-up paint on some of the items on the posts. And the final two, rebar. There's a chunk of rebar in the water that needs to be pulled out and removed. And then there's some washers that are currently silver and need to be converted to black washers.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? All righty. All in favor of the final payment with the $5,000 for retainage, to approve that final payment, will vote aye. All opposed will vote no using the roll call machine. That motion passes 9-0.
Item B, the board recommends council approve the amendment to Liberty Heights subdivision development agreement as complying with city ordinances. Note the Finance and Personnel Committee recommended denial of the amended development agreement. And I would so move.
Oh, so he's making the motion on behalf of the Board of Public Works. Is that correct?
Correct.
And I will second it. So
I'm going I'm first going to have
discussion.
We had some discussion. I'm going to have Jim explain the board's role, because there was some discussion in that committee on our role is different than the Finance Committee's role. And I just want to highlight that a little bit, okay?
Sure, thank you, Mayor. The Board of Public Works, by ordinance, is charged with the responsibility of reviewing development agreements to determine whether or not they comply with city ordinances. And what the board did here, it may have not been worded exactly right, but the idea is that the board is saying that the development agreement can be approved by the Common Council because it does comply with the ordinances. Finance Committee takes a look at other negotiable items like the carrying costs of the project, and there may be public policy reasons for not accepting the amendment for those reasons, so that they have a broader scope of looking at the project in terms of policy directions that the committee feels the city should take with regard to development agreements. And the issue, as I understood it at the Finance Committee, was that the committee members felt that the city would be carrying too many costs for too long on that with the amendment to the development agreement. So that's the reason for the different motions from the two different committees, or recommendations to different committees.
So the one committee recommended the approval, the Board of Public Works. The Finance Personnel Committee recommended denial of the amended agreement. The motion that Alderman Hillstrom is going to move forward is to approve which motion is properly before the council then?
Well,
the motion to approve from Board of Public Works, or the motion to deny from Finance?
Well, probably the cleanest way is to take the vote on the motion that the Board of Public Works put forward, because if there's a negative vote, then the amendment is not accepted. If there's a positive vote, then the amended agreement is accepted. So it's third thing. Yes means go ahead with the development agreement amendment. No means don't agree to the.
Okay. All right. So Alderman Hillstrom, would you like to make that motion?
You have a motion.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Bates seconded.
It was seconded?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so there's a motion and a second to approve the amendment. Alderman, I lost you, it's Todd, I'm sorry. Alderman Bates, and then Alderman Stevenson.
I'll cede it to
Alderman Stevenson?
Yeah, I just have a little bit of an issue with the attorney's description that there the recommendation that came from the Board of Public Works was advisory to the council as to the appropriateness of meeting city ordinances. That's fine, but the recommendation that the governing body made, which is from the Finance and Personnel Committee meeting, was to deny it. And I would offer that the body can take into consideration the fact that the Board of Public Works declared it meeting ordinance, and I don't think anyone in the Finance Committee who didn't support it would argue that it meets city ordinances. It's just that, for your comment, that there were other reasons for the Finance Committee. So to come with a positive recommendation because the board made it under an advisory, under a minuscule scope of responsibility, and that being whether or not it meets city ordinances, I think is wrong. I think we should take the motion that came from the standing committee of the council to the floor.
I think that's a decision the council could make. There's a motion on the floor.
The procedural way to handle that is if the council wishes to take up the motion as it came out of finance would be to table the current motion and then take up that recommendation of finance.
You can take that other motion. Time. Alderman Bates?
Thank you, Mayor. And when I made the second, I did make the second with the idea of opening it for discussion. The other thing is just because it was whatever the first motion is made, it doesn't necessarily say, even the chairman can say, I didn't like it, I'm going to make a motion to deny. It's recommends, the committee recommends, and then someone has to make the motion either way. And that's kind of how I saw it. It was not that we're proposing it, it's just we wanted to open it up for discussion because it was kind of laying there.
In order for the action to happen, though, regardless of the Finance Committee recommendation, if the council would approve it, the Board of Public Works action would still have to be done at some point. Is that correct?
The board report that it would comply with the ordinances would be part of the record. So if the council wished to only deal with the motion to deny, it would be able to table the motion to recommend approval and take up that other motion. Complete the matter. But
right.
the idea of doing from a negative motion always creates confusion because you're voting yes for a negative motion against the matter before you. That's kind of counterintuitive. So board's motion sets it up in a positive motion in the sense that if you vote yes, you're approving the amendment. If you vote no, you're rejecting it.
And I sense that the council is going to ask some questions on the issue and on the item. So it really doesn't matter if you have that discussion under either motion. There's a motion on the floor, and you can have that discussion now, which will, if you'd like. Otherwise, you can dispose of this one or table it and move on to the other question. Alderman Coons.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to split hairs here, and while I agree with Council President Stevenson's overall argument, the bottom line is, at least my understanding is, and what I've seen in the past, is if it comes out of committee to not deny something, we don't take action and we move on unless someone wants to bring it up. And we've had this before. It's been denied by a committee. Someone wanted to bring it up. They brought it up, and we move forward. But we never come up and say we need to vote to deny this. At least my experience. Now I looked at the city attorney, but we usually just move on unless someone wants to bring it up. So the fact that someone brought it up seems to be the exactly natural way to do this.
So it's just if it's a denial, it's a reporting out. No council action is necessary.
And if it was a tie, it wouldn't even showed up here under our current law.
I would take one issue with that because the council has historically taken up negative motions, recommendations out of committee You are correct that the council could, if the report was to deny the amendment and no action was taken, you still have the board's report that has to be reported out, and there is a motion on that. So either way, you could end up with a motion from the board. The motion perhaps could have been drafted a little bit more clearly, in that the board would recommend that the amendment could be approved because it complies with the ordinances. That's the board's role, and that's what the minutes indicate. But that's effectively what the motion is doing.
Alderman Bates.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to move on to asking Director of Community Development their view on the import of going one way or the other with this decision.
Your question to Director Hayes is what?
I've read in the minutes that we had, on one side, we're carrying costs, on the other side, we're opening up another area of the city. In the view of community development, are we opening up enough that would assist this, or would it even develop if we put this in?
Okay. So I'm going to ask Director Hayes then to answer that question and also give us the background, since we were at a little disadvantage because both were not at that meeting. So Director Hayes, can you give us
Sure.
from the staff's perspective?
I apologize for not being at the meeting. I was out of town on vacation, and Deputy Director Schmidt was scheduled to be there, but got called away to provide limited assistance with the delivery of his new daughter, Eleanor. So Brad's back to work today. His wife said she had enough of him at home, so he's back to work. So I apologize for being there, and I thank Director Gazer for carrying the load while we were gone. This particular development, or this portion of the development, we've been discussing internally for probably well over a year now, trying to figure out a way to get this done given the nuances that are associated with it. Historically, when we're doing if we have these types of situations where we have development on one side of a road, we have either property that's not in the city or undevelopable on the other side of the road. Historically, and I think with perhaps few exceptions, the city has typically held the cost on that, on the unaccessible portion of the street, or has held those assessments as deferred assessments until such time that those properties come into the city and develop. In this case, we have, given the potential for some growth to the west, we have negotiated a situation where the developer is holding 3/4 of the cost, or paying 3/4 of the cost, and the city would be holding approximately 1/4 of the cost, which equates to about, for both sewer and water, about $26,000. The confusion began with this one early on with some inquiries that our former water utility director Taylor had made with the PSC relative to the ability of the water utility, or whether the water utility had the ability to hold costs deferred in the form of a deferred assessment for water main that for half of a water main. The initial read on that was that the water utility could not do that. We, at that time, chose to put the development agreement together in that fashion to continue to move forward with it, with the understanding that we would continue to revisit that item. We, from my office, pushed that issue a little bit harder, given our long history of holding water main and sewer costs for those particular situations where we have either, again, undeveloped or property that's not in the city on the other side of the road. Through the course of time, with further clarification with the PSC, it was determined that the water utility could actually hold those costs. So we, through this amendment, have proposed to come back to a more traditional, or I don't want to call it traditional, but what we have historically done in these types of situations. And of course, the challenge with these particular situations is that there's a significant cost. I mentioned here roughly $26,000. If we had done the complete development and we held half and the developer held half, they'd have roughly $50,000 in cost. spread over 6 lots. That's about a $5,000 hit on each lot. That's a significant impact, and to the point that it's potentially a project that's no longer feasible. The need for sewer along County Trunk Highway along Wooden Shoe Road from Briggs Lane south is, as Marge alluded to actually both south and north, is to provide potential utilities for future growth to the west and north. We do not have sewer on County Trunk Highway G to Wooden Shoe Road. It's in the interior development, so there is no sewer on the north side of the development, essentially the whole span of the development, I believe. It comes through the interior development, and part of that was logistics and financial fiscal responsibility. We put that utility into development where those costs could be held on both sides of the pipe because there's city residents on either side. There probably is, I'm pretty confident there's some cost that the city holds for upsizing that pipe, like again, another thing that we traditionally do to accommodate growth to the west and north. So this particular section of pipe from Briggs north obviously is critical for the 3 lots on the east side that are in the city. It also provides the opportunity for properties that are currently in the town to access that utility, both the sewer and the water, but it's also has the potential to serve properties further to the west and north. So it's positioned that way. Again, we're holding a roughly half, I don't want to confuse numbers. We're holding roughly a quarter of the total cost of the Wooden Shoe installation. We could, if this section of pipe were not put in and we had an opportunity and the circumstances so presented themselves that we needed to extend utilities further west and north, we could be holding in a situation where we could be responsible, assuming the council would agree, for up to half the cost. So that, in summary, I think, again, we've go into these things typically with the partnership mentality, understanding it takes both the city and the private sector to get these things done. We try to approach them with some level of equity and fairness involved. We have, in this case, extending those utilities along Wooden Shoe or north on Wooden Shoe to County Trunk Highway G will position the city to accommodate future growth to the north and west. And probably one thing that I believe, at least it provides somewhat of a clear and consistent message to the development community that if you are looking at Neenah as a possibility for development, that you will be dealt with fairly and equitably as we consider these possible developments in the future. I don't know that answered your question.
Almost.
Alderman Bates, go ahead.
Thank you. Going westward, how much capability do we have for expansion out there before we hit another, wall because of the agreements, townships?
Well, Wooden Shoe Road is the boundary between the town of Neenah and town of Inland. So there is no boundary agreement west of Wooden Shoe Road. So that it goes back to those that have been around to the old days of annexation and development. So in the days of town of Neenah, I'm looking around to see who was around. I know Alderman Stevenson was. Every annexation was contested, and we fought every one. I don't know that will be the case here.
Well, some more than others.
Yeah, agreed. So we will. There is.
Some weren't fought at all.
You stand corrected. There is significant growth to the west, or opportunity for growth to the west. From a utility perspective, we are beginning to climb as we go west. So the need for lift stations and those things are minimized. Not to say that this pipe itself would serve all of that. It certainly would not.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Or Alderman Stevenson?
Okay, so for my reason for challenging this in committee was probably threefold. One, we had this request is a modification of a development agreement in which the contractor had agreed to assume all costs. So that's probably my first issue. Secondly, in discussing potential development, it's became, well, I shouldn't say. The assumption we made was that any future development west of Wooden Shoe would probably occur south of Briggs, and ultimately then could probably be served by utilities through utilities that exist in coming through the existing city development through Briggs Lane, and then could be sent south without us having to carry any costs. I'm assuming that's true. Gary represented that. I believe at the committee meeting that we had the ability to develop south and west of Briggs Lane. We would not be able to develop west, but based on what we know about discussions and existing infrastructure that exists due west of this current 4 lots, the likelihood of annexation requests is limited. I'll be very limited. And then so that was the second reason for my leading the charge to deny. And my third one was somewhat parochial in that I was the one that recommended we not develop these corner lots as corner lots, but rather put the park on those locations, which wouldn't need any investment from a utilities perspective, or excuse me, to switch to the park from the internal of the development to the corner, which wouldn't require us to do any development, and would then service the flipped lots through existing infrastructure that exists within the development of the city. So the likelihood of the $26,000 ever being recovered while it's being held, the likelihood of ever being recovered is very, very minimal. What will happen is that we will negotiate with the developer to develop, just like we did on Pendleton Road, which is fine, which is great. But to expect us to say that we're holding for future annexation costs, probably not going to happen.
Alderman Bates?
Thank you, Mayor. When he's got the lots that are beyond on that same road, but the other side of the street is township, what sort of development increment would that give to the city? If we don't do it, would they not develop even those 4 lots? Or
I'm not sure I understand the 4 lots west of Wooden Shoe or
the
north?
ones that would be serviced by this new?
Okay, the 3.
Oh, 3, sorry.
There's 3 to the north and 3 to the south of Briggs Lane. The 3 to the south and the abutting sewer would be held by the developer. Under the proposed amendment, the 3 to the north, the half that cost would be held by the developer. The other half would be by the city. Again, I'm confusing halves and quarters, but that was how it was. That's how was proposed in the amendment.
So if he were not to get this, would the 3 lots that he has be developed?
It's likely that they would still be developed, but at a significant cost. And part of it is, I think, my understanding, again, we've been working on it for some time, is that there's interest in those lots, and they may actually have been sold.
Do you have a ballpark on what sort of assessable value on these lots? I mean, what would the city be gaining or losing? Or if he develops them, does he have to link in someplace else, or does he have to put in a septic system?
Well, first, the 3 to the north and to the south, for that matter, could not be developed. They're in the city. We're not going to let them be developed any other way but on city sewer and water. So they won't develop unless we have allow the utilities to go in, or we'll require them to go in. In terms of value, we are expecting the homes on these 6 lots to range somewhere in the neighborhood of $350,000 to $450,000, which probably generates $40,000 to $50,000 a year in tax revenue. Quick math. Mike's shaking his head. Yes, I must have been close.
Mike, yeah. So the payback would be fairly quick.
And Mayor, if I could, just to add on to that statement, that's correct. Todd's point of whether whether the properties across the street ever choose to connect. If they chose to connect, we would have complete payback. If they choose not to, Todd's correct, and we certainly have plenty of lots out there. We have enough that have annexed and connected and paid the deferred assessments, but we certainly have plenty that have not.
I'd just like to interject here. Alderman Stevenson makes a lot of good points. The one thing that I'm concerned about, just a couple of things. There was some talk, and I know, and I drove out there today, about switching where the park is now, which is on the inner side of the subdivision, to the corner. As Alderman Stevenson points out, then it wouldn't require those things. But wouldn't it still require, do we still have plumbing? Like, is there going to be bathrooms out there? No bathrooms at that park, okay. So no bubblers or anything like that, so, okay. I didn't get out of my car, but the one thing that, concerns me is that this is the same developer. The developer who's doing this is the one that's also interested on the west side of Wooden Shoe. Is that correct? Has some property, same developer?
They're exploring options to the west.
Yeah, so he's doing and as Todd points out, at some point he agreed to assume all these costs. The one, there is a little bit of a factor that, if you remember, this whole development sat for a long time, went through two or three bankruptcies, I think, and this developer is the developer who finally came in and cleaned up a lot of the mess from previous developers. So I'm just hoping that rather than this go down, the director, the deputy director were not able to be there. I don't know what kind of discussions took place since the finance committee meeting with these key players, not being in the building because they were on vacation, which was just a timing issue. I'd prefer that rather than this go down tonight, if it's going to go down, that we send this back to committee and give it some time for them to work on and see if there's a way to come to some resolution. I don't think there's a hurry here or anything, either way. And, circumstances and timing weren't very good with babies and vacations and things like that. So, maybe there's some ways to negotiate some of these things in order to take care of some of the concerns that were raised at the committee level by Alderman Stevenson and others. With the vote. But we have very few lots in this city for people to build on right now, and it's darn important that we somehow get a gateway to the west. And I just feel that this is a possible gateway for some city expansion. And so I don't want to, have this developer walk away from something that could benefit Neenah in the long term. And these are, pricey lots, and the development, the assessed value is going to return most of our money in a fairly timely manner. But the comments about, waiting a long time, holding these costs, it's true. I'm not, going to deny that at all. But I still believe that in the long run, we're better off figuring this out than letting this project fall by the wayside. Alderman Bates?
Thank you, Mayor. And that would allow me to get an answer to some of the questions, like have we approached the developer again about trying to flip the lot for the park? What would it cost to take out the stuff that we put in? Because concrete and a basketball hoop, not necessarily a lot of money. I'd like to know some of those questions before, if we can save money, as President Stevenson said, on not having to go through that area. That sounds like a good idea too. The other thing is to look at, we do have a park on Castle Oak back there. I'm not real happy that it's against a county road, but so I can see it both ways with where the park is, and that's probably why they started it there. But if it needs to be moved, I could understand that too.
Either location would be along G, right? The northern boundary would be on
That's
G.
correct.
It's either on the corner, on the inside now. It's going to be theoretically would be on the corner.
There's sidewalks planned, Jerry, for G or Wooden Shoe on the outside of the subdivision?
Sidewalks on G. It will be put on Wooden Shoe as soon as we kind of get clearance out there.
Soon as what?
As soon as we get clearance out there. We had been kind of holding off on installing that walk until the utilities were placed. But we may have to move ahead of time.
So there will be sidewalks?
Yes, there will.
On Wooden Shoe and G?
It isn't on G, and there will be on Wooden Shoe.
They just got done on G. Just finished.
All right. Alderman Erickson.
I move to table this discussion to the Finance Committee. Is that the correct?
Correct motion would be to refer this issue back to the Finance Committee.
Refer this to the Finance Committee?
Jim, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Second.
I was actually just trying to second it.
There's a motion by Alderman Erickson and a second by Alderman Stevenson to refer this issue back to the Finance Committee. Is there any discussion? Alderman Bates.
Yes, I just want to make sure the rule to hierarchy of so a tabling or a referral takes precedence over a motion.
Any motion for positive action can be, or substantive action can always be referred back to committee.
Thank you.
Yes, it does.
Director Easker.
If the referral or the tabling is successful, what committee meeting would we like it? We have a committee meeting scheduled for Monday. Is that probably not likely enough time to get answers?
Isn't it the following week, because we've got 5 Wednesdays this week? So it's going to be the 27th.
Yeah, week off.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right, 27.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Guess we got time then.
Chris, that'll give you enough time to talk to the proper people in that?
Yes, and certainly if there's anything specific that any of the aldermen or committee members would like me to look at or investigate, certainly let me know and we'll try to get answers.
Alderman Coons.
Thank you. Director Hayes, just to verify, so we aren't in a time crunch in any way on this one, or?
Well, probably not best for me to answer that question. The developer's in the room. You can ask him, but I know there's a home going up in the lots to the south. I don't know how this impacts the timing of utilities. I think it puts the developer in a difficult spot because of that timing. And if I were the developer, I would be concerned that if I'm going to move ahead with this, that's the perception that, you know what, I'm going to do it anyway, and that's so maybe an unfair position.
Well, and how unusual is this? This seems to be, I don't want to say standard because there's no, but nothing here in this seems that different than any other developments.
What has messed this up has been the determination early on from a call to the PSC that said you can't do that. That was what was communicated to me. We the water utility can't hold these costs. That was what caused the issue, and we said, well, we've got to figure out, if we can't do it, we've got to move forward. That's the only reason we changed from our protocol of typically deferring or holding the cost on the other half of it. As I said earlier, as we pushed that, because we've been doing it for as long as I can remember, and questioning why the change at the PSC, it was determined that, the utility could hold those costs. So that's, in my opinion, maybe what the only thing that was different in this situation.
I'm going to ask the developers in the room, would you like to address the council on anything at this point? Okay, with that being said, I'm going to ask unanimous consent to allow the developer to address the council at this time. Is that okay? Is there any objection? Okay, seeing none? Come on up. Welcome.
Thank you.
Just state your name and address for the record, please.
Rich Van Sistine, and I live at 1430 Freedom Court in the Liberty Heights subdivision in Neenah. So I live in Neenah, have had a vested interest in Neenah. Much of the construction that we've done has been in Neenah. We built about 25 homes in the Castle Oak subdivision, probably about 30 homes in the Liberty Heights subdivision and other areas. These lots on Wooden Shoe Road, we purchased as a part of, we purchased the remaining 25 lots in Liberty Heights, and we purchased these with them. They had no sewer and water at the time. It wasn't feasible to put sewer and water in at the time. But obviously, as you've spoke to, there is a real lot shortage, so we looked at this as being a good opportunity to develop these lots. So we've been working on this for probably over a year, trying to, to come to this point, to come to an agreement. As far as ever agreeing to the developer's agreement, we never agreed to it. It was just that we needed to continue to move forward, and that question about the PSC came up, and we just said we'll just continue to talk about that. But we wanted to keep everything else moving forward. As we were working on these lots, a neighbor from Vinland's dog ran out in the road, and then the neighbor came out and he said, you should purchase our land. So we have purchased enough land in Vinland that we could develop 12 more lots in the city of Neenah. That our intent would be, our intent is to get this developer's agreement figured out first, so we kind of have the precedent for, the next one. If we can get this taken care of, we can move on to the next one right away. So there would be another 12 lots. We do have 3 of the lots sold. As Chris had said, one of the contracts is $347,000, one is $390,000, another one's about $450,000 on these. And the lots that we would do across the street would be a little bit bigger. They would be maybe like 100 foot wide. Some of them would be as deep as like 250 feet deep. So those would also be for bigger, nicer homes. So I'm very much about, as what Chris had said, creating a win-win situation. So that's why we had agreed, that even though the precedents had been maybe to hold a larger amount of the other side of the street, the issue for us is our costs. When we have nothing across the street to sell, it just makes our costs on these lots so hard or so much higher. So to answer the question, will we develop these lots without it? Yes, we will. But our question is, again, setting that precedence for what we do across the street. So we really want this to be, we want to get these sewers in too, so that's why we've said, let's just look at a quarter of it. We want to get them in because we want to continue to develop both ways, and across the street. To answer the time crunch question, yes, there is a time crunch. This sewer and water is, ordered, it's set to go in. They would start installing it as early as this Wednesday. So, it's, like I said, we would go ahead with it, we would do it. This is just more about, hey, let's create a win-win situation so we can get this done, make it make a little more sense, and then continue forward with the next one. So,
thank you, Rich. I don't want to get into a full-blown discussion here, questions, answers, because is the swapping of the parkland for those lots and flip-flopping them, is that anything you would consider?
Here's the issue with it. I've been involved with Liberty Heights for years. And we live in Liberty Heights. We know the people in Liberty Heights. I can assure you that there would be a lot of pushback to that happening. And the reason that I say that is because where these lots are, where that park is, that's been known for a long time. Where the walking trail is going to go, all of this has been, known. There's houses around it. There would be pushback from them. I'm not saying it would be a bad idea or wouldn't have worked, but obviously if the subdivision had been set up that way originally. So that would be 100% would become an issue. Again, it's not that wouldn't be a good spot for lots. It would work fine.
Okay.
But that definitely would be an issue.
Right. I tell you what, I'll allow, if anyone has a burning question, otherwise, there's been a motion to refer this. It would happen on August 27th. Chris would have some discussions with you before that. You you think you'd be available to come that night if asked?
Yeah.
But Chris could maybe meet with you, and maybe myself and Chris and Jerry and that, we could hammer out some of these things and get it back to the council in a timely manner. So it's the council's decision, what they want to do, move forward or whatever. This is nothing against you as a developer or anything, trust me. This is just simply looking out for the best interests of the city taxpayers and that. And
which I'm one of them. So
that's, yeah.
So I appreciate that.
And but we appreciate the fact you're willing to develop here in this community and have an interest in this community and that. And so I just want you to know that this isn't personal against you or anything. You build some great product, and we want you to continue doing business. And as you heard my comments, and I'll be honest, I did not know that you were the developer, but I said, we're looking for a gateway to the West. And, we'd love to continue to work with people like you. So I just want to make sure you understand that. So.
I do.
Anyone else have any comments before we, Tammy, did you have anything?
No, I was.
Okay.
Same question.
All right. Well, I appreciate you addressing,
Okay.
Unless anyone has a burning question. I don't want to stop anyone, but I don't want Jim to yank my board here either. Todd, do you have anything?
Oh.
Okay, good. All right.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. So at this point, the motion is to refer this to the next Finance Committee meeting, which would be August 27th, Mike? Correct? Any further discussion seeing none? Alderman Coons?
I was just I'm going to vote against moving this forward. I mean, about referring this. To me, I don't think there's anything abnormal about what we've got going on here. Trying to swap things at this point when sewer lines are about to go in makes no sense. The idea of swapping them was so we could run different sewer lines. All the work's been done, all the engineering's been done. To try to make changes at this point, it isn't going to be in anybody's best interest. We have, I don't know how many sites now, maybe 10, I don't know, it's not very many in this city. We need developers, we need to work with developers, and we need to make these things happen. And so I don't want to refer this back. I think if you move forward, and I would be happy to approve it.
All right. Motion is to refer this back to the next Finance Committee meeting so we can see if we can get some of our questions answered. There's a motion and a second. All in favor will vote aye. All opposed will vote no. That motion passes to refer, passes 7-2. Okay? And Chris will be in touch with you, okay? Thank you very much for coming tonight. Community Development Authority update. Anything, Director Hayes?
Nothing to report tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Library Board, Alderman Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor. The Library Board met today at 4 o'clock, and I am pleased to report that this is the last week of the Youth Library, Summer Youth Library Program, and their attendance number is 2,249, which is 56 more than last year. So they had a great turnout for their Summer Youth Library Program. I also want to highlight 2 programs that are coming up. Every Thursday night, if you are interested, you can go to the library and bring your ukulele. And there is a ukulele jam session from 6 to 7. The Memory Cafe, which will be held on August 20th, will feature the Bergstrom-Mahler Museum. The Memory Cafes are for those experiencing early stage dementia, mild memory loss, or cognitive impairment, and for their family and friends of those affected, and they are at 1:30. So it's nice to see that the Bergstrom-Mahler Museum and the library are partnering on this project. So please pass the word along on that as well. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Not a lot of ukuleles out there, I'm guessing, but who knows?
You can check them out at the library.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, give us a warning if you do that, would you?
Jim,
Maybe we could have a jam session after the...
Jim, if I'm not in right away tomorrow morning, you know where I'll be.
We'll refer to you as Tiny Mayor.
Mayor Tim.
Oh, there's a lot of ways we could go with that, but no.
No.
Why do I start this? Thank you. The Neenah Arts Council, Alderman Erickson, they had a meeting.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The Neenah Arts Council met last Wednesday, and I'm pleased to report that there are a number of things in the works for the Neenah Arts Council. On Friday, September 21st, we are planning to hold a plein air art event, and it's going to be in Riverside Park at the harbor. It is a free event for families, and what it will entail, it will be from 5 to 7. So if you're interested in learning about plein air art, coming in and painting or drawing at the harbor, there will be artists there to help you do that. It will be a great event. I encourage everybody from the City Council and staff to attend because it'll just be a super event for the community. So, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. And after that, we have no petitions. Any council directives anyone would like to discuss? Any unfinished business? Under new business, I'd like to announce that I will have some appointments to fill the expired terms of Lori Zettler, Josh Cutney, Susan Antono, and Pat Lowney on the Committee on Aging for a 3-year term to expire September 2021. These will be considered at the September 5th meeting. So I will get a hold of these folks and contact them and see if they're interested in serving again or look for new people. That'll be at the next meeting. Item number B is any announcements or questions that may come. I was hoping to get out of here by 8, but I will just very quickly tell you, or maybe Clerk Sturm can give you a quick update on the polling and how it went and how many people voted, but we have new polling places this time. So Clerk Sturm, you just want to give us a quick update?
All in all, yesterday went rather well. We had very few complaints. There was a little concern about the size of Whiting Boathouse. My poll workers have indicated to me they're going to deal with that with crowd control in November, and they feel safe on leaving it at Whiting Boathouse. A little concern about the Memorial Park shelter being so far into the park, and then a little bit of a walk up into the building itself. But I did have someone call me today and thank me for the curbside voting that we had available at the Memorial Park shelter. It's a drive-over unit that people drive over, and then my poll workers come down and help them at their vehicle to vote. And one woman called me, said she really appreciated that. As far as voter turnout, I heard I read on the internet somewhere today that statewide they were saying they had a 21% turnout, and I'm happy to say the city of Neenah had almost a 30% turnout.
Well, thank you. Well, that's why Neenah is so cool. I mean, drive up voting people. I think that's a really unique thing, and that's cool. And very quickly under announcements, I just want to say. The Labor Day parade's coming up August 23rd. The Doty Island Porchapalooza and is going on, and also Smith Park. There's some goings-ons, and this Saturday there's Furry Flurry Walk at Riverside Park. And the mayor's cookout for the employees is going to be August 30th. So folks know here you'll be getting invited, and something will be sent to you. Yesterday, the group met. That is kind of been working staff and a couple of them on the transportation changes to the assessment, potential changes to the assessment practices here in the city. We have kind of a agreement that some of us are going to bring forward, hopefully soon, very soon. We're hoping to act on something that the council may be able to act on something by the end of September and have something before we start dealing with the budget. But other than that, those are the announcements I have. Other announcements, Alderman Bates.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to thank the poll workers. Carrie and I worked with some very special people. Everyone out there did a great job, very professional, welcoming. I wanted to thank the city staff too, because I know they put in a lot of extra hours and it went very smoothly. So thank you very much. And if you're interested in a poll worker, contact City Hall, Patty Stern.
Yep. The clerk's office did a great job. our young man who was here for a summer intern, David Monroe. He left today to go back to college in Purdue, but he was a valuable addition to the office this summer, really helped out on the election. So we're really pleased to have him, and we wish David well down in college in Purdue. So Alderman Steele.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
Thursday, 23rd, is $5. It gets your swim in the pool, hour and a half. It's
Good job. August 23rd. August 23rd, drool at the pool.
drool in the
Drool in the pool, and it's an opportunity to bring your dog to the pool. My dog is a Sheltie, so my dog loves to run around and herd all the other dogs up. So he has a ball, and then he goes home.
We have a process to deal with that, dog.
It's kind of like being mayor. You're herding things, herding cats. So, but no, it's a fun event. And it's a fundraiser too. So it's great. Alderman Erickson.
I just want to mention on the drool in the pool, if you don't have a dog, I encourage you to go and watch. It is very, very fun to see all the dogs running in the pool. And I'd like to comment on the elections. The November election, voter turnout should be high, so I encourage as many people as possible to vote early. It'll be very convenient for you, and it will alleviate the long lines at the polls on that day. Thank you.
Hey. God, this drool in the pool. This might be a reason for Ashley and Nancy to get another dog. So
I just asked Mike if I needed a rabies shot to jump in and swim with the dogs.
I'll bring it up to Ashley.
Yeah,
okay.
thanks.
Anyone else
So
have anything for the good order of business? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Who to adjourn?
Second.
Motion by Alderman Stevenson, second by Alderman Lenrum to adjourn. Is there all in favor of adjournment? We'll vote aye. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Broadcasts of the City of Neenah Common Council meetings are produced by University Studios of the University of Wisconsin, Fox Valley. Neenah residents can get information about City Council meetings, City Committee meetings, meeting agendas, and other documents via the City website, www.neenahgov.org. Neenah residents can express their opinions about city issues or about these broadcasts by contacting the mayor's office, contacting their city alderman, or by completing the electronic feedback form on the city website, www.neenahgov.org. All public portions of the meetings are recorded in entirety and are not edited for playback.